Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Thank you for coming. I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad the storm isn't. We were just inquiring here. Does anyone remember when the tornado hit this area?
Right.
1985. All right. I'm sorry to say this, but I was in this hotel having dinner, looked out the window, and it looked like it had been snowing in May. It was a terrifying night, and I'm glad that, for the most part, it missed all of us. We're also glad you're here tonight because this subject, how to protect your assets against the costs of nursing homes, is the foremost issue that we confront today when I meet with people. Day in, day out, either people are very concerned about this topic, or they should be. They should be because this is the 800-pound gorilla. He used to be 700 pounds, but he's growing. And that gorilla is ready to eat away at the assets that you have if you end up in a nursing home. Now, I'm sure you've heard the statistics of how many of us stand a chance of spending some time in a nursing home. Your speaker tonight will tell you more about that. And I'm also sure you've heard of what the average length of time a person spends in a nursing home. We had a client who went into a nursing home at the age of 68, and she died at 109 years of age. Can you only imagine the cost of that? So this is a topic that really has no favorites. It really doesn't matter how large your estate is. Matt DeLiberato, who you'll be hearing from tonight, is extremely knowledgeable in this area. He's practiced in this area for a long time. He knows the system. He knows what has been tried and does work. And more importantly, he knows what does not work. Please save your questions until we're done, because we won't leave here tonight until we tackle each one. So would you please join me in giving a very warm welcome to Attorney Matt DeLiberato.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you, everyone. Good evening. Thanks for taking the time to be here. Obviously, I think all of you have busy schedules, or somewhat busy schedules. Regardless of if you do or you don't, you took the time to be here, and we really appreciate that. We're going to promise 3 things tonight. One is that the time we have together will go very fast. So for the next 3.5 hours, slow down, Matt DeLiberato, they say. The second promise is that we're going to have some fun. And I think most of you in this room already laughed, so that's good. That promise is already made. And lastly, you're going to learn something. And so, if I keep those 3 promises, all I ask for is one in return. And that is, at the end, we're going to give you an evaluation sheet, and to please fill that out. Now, very important, if you notice at the bottom, it talks about the effectiveness of the presenter. And, well, you don't have it yet. I'll give it to you. If you want, you can just circle all 5s and you can leave now. Let's talk a little bit about why we're here and what we're going to do tonight. In the time we have together, we're going to talk about who are your predators. I really do feel there are threats to your family security, your financial security, and we're going to figure out who those are. We're also going to review the changes that have happened. Most, if not all of you in this room, and maybe even some of you watching this presentation, have an estate plan. Could be a very simple plan. Could be a trust plan, a will plan. I don't know. What I do know is that things have changed. And even though we want to say today, hey, great, it's going to last forever, it's not. We're also going to discover, how do we protect our stuff? And stuff, to me, is all it is. It's just stuff, isn't it? My grandfather bet my great-grandmother, I'll bet you I'm going to outlive you. She says, yeah, I'll bet you $500 that I'll outlive you. He says, you're on. I said, well, what if I win? He says, don't worry, I'll put the check in your casket. And then when we close, we'll do the evaluation like I've asked, and we'll take any questions. So what has changed? A lot of you maybe in this room may already have a revocable trust. what I call an RLT. The current plan served its purpose. Why did we set up that trust? Well, we wanted to avoid probate. Is that still happening? Yes. We wanted to avoid death taxes, estate taxes, right? In Ohio, it used to be anything over $25,000, we'd start paying tax. Then the state of Ohio did this wonderful thing for us and said, we're going to make it anything $338,000 or more, you're going to pay tax. And we all went, oh, that's great, thank you. And then the state of Ohio, January 1, 2013, said, no more estate tax. Will it come back? I don't know, I'm not sure. Is it important that you had this plan in place? Yes. Did it work up until today? Yes. We laid the foundation. The protection we're going to talk about today was not available, most likely when you did this plan. It might have been available, but it might not have been talked about or addressed. We're going to address it today. Boy, estate recovery, that's changed immensely. What is estate recovery? Well, when Medicaid, and we're going to get into that a little bit, and what is Medicaid really? But what they say is when someone dies, we want to get back anything we've paid. And so what happened was the Medicaid rules were pretty simple, and we'd say, great, anything in probate, that's what you can get at. Anything not in probate, sorry, you're out of the box. So what happened? Well, we had a life insurance policy, had a beneficiary. Is a beneficiary something that goes through probate? No, no. I'm going to just touch on that real quick so everybody's clear. What goes through probate? Something in my name only. All wills go through probate. A will tells probate court where you want it to go. What is probate court? It's a court that oversees when, how, and where someone gets it. To me, though, that's all estate planning is. And what you did when you laid the foundation and did this plan, you changed from the court saying when, how, and where to you determining who, when, and how gets it, right? And in those trusts you may have very specific things that you've done. You know, the University of Washington did a study. They say 94% of people that they surveyed have some sort of estate plan. Only 4% of those people, that plan will work the way they think it's supposed to work. So regardless of what your plan is today, now is the time to review it. And lastly, I added this recently because as of June, this wasn't an issue, but an inherited IRA is no longer protected. What does that mean? My mom and dad pass away, they give me an IRA. It was pretty simple. I took it as an inherited IRA. I'd pay tax throughout the rest of my life, called stretch out provisions, and it was protected from my creditors. In June, the Supreme Court said, nope, no longer protected. So we have some issues. That didn't scare us, though, because when we talk about not being protected, we've been doing these plans. And those were not a shock to us, nor was it a concern, because we've had assets protected for a while. So the question I have right now, and if I could ask either Jessica or Karen to come up, I'm going to ask you to write on the board for me. What do you want to know? I love starting with this. Why? Because I want to know if we answer one question for you, what's a good use of your time? So tell me, what do you want to know? Anyone? I was going to say, wait, nothing? Okay, let's go. No, okay, go ahead.
My mother-in-law bought a policy a long time ago when she was still 55 and the price was reasonable. The price continues to go up now as she ages, but the coverage has not gone up. So what they are willing to pay is $150 a day. That doesn't cover it in a day. So is this policy a waste of time?
I'm going to repeat that question for the camera. It's a great question. What do we want to know? And I'm going to phrase it like this, Karen. I have a long-term care policy. You only have to write LTC. Cost increases. Benefit doesn't. Won't cover my costs. Was this a total waste of a time? Now you've got to paraphrase that somehow. So put an arrow for up, $, right? Benefit, make one line straight, right? Doesn't go up. Was this a waste? Did I waste my time? A waste of money, right? Good question. Anyone else? We'll get there. We'll answer it.
Along that same line, on a long-term care policy, can you yourself, as a beneficiary, decide how much of that total policy you want to use each month? In other words, if you've got a $250,000 total, can you decide, I want to use $300 a day and use it up quicker? Fine. Can I decide to do that?
How about if I paraphrase it?
Right?
Are long-term care policies flexible? And then we'll answer that in the end, just for the board, right? But yes, I heard that. How can I use it? Can I get more of a benefit, less of a benefit? Can I control the flow of it? And I love that question because I know the answer and I know what we can do.
Okay.
Anyone else? Any other questions?
Does it impact Medicaid?
How do long-term care policies impact Medicaid? Great question. A lot is centered around long-term care, but go ahead.
I guess, how do you get Medicaid if you have money?
Ah, everybody hear that one? How do you get Medicaid if you have money?
Not a lot.
I've always, yeah, not a lot. I don't have a lot of money. You know what, though? I have someone worth, I would say $10 million about. It's a lot of commercial property. He says, I'm not worth a lot of money. It's all relative, isn't it? People say, you know, my net worth's $100,000. If, you know, really to do any kind of planning, it should be double that. It should be this, right? We can keep going. Everybody thinks they don't have a lot. You'd be surprised what you have. Okay. Good? Yes?
What's the cost of having one?
Why buy LTC? How's that? Good one. Good. So I think we have some good questions to start with. If you have any others, we're going to take questions at the end, and we're going to make sure we cover these. Thank you, Karen. So let's talk about predators. I said we're going to talk about the predators and who they are. Now, are creditors predators? Well, yeah. And is it always that I choose my creditors? No. Do I have people who lose jobs and end up in a situation where they have creditors that they didn't want? Yes. Can we provide immediate protection from creditors? Yes. When I say beneficiary creditors as well, planning is very simple. When Jack and I talk about planning, well, at least I say, I want 3 questions answered here, and I'm going to give you the magic answer of what you need. One is, when are you going to die? Okay, that's okay. You can't answer that one. Let's go to number 2. When you die, were you healthy or sick? Did you need nursing care or not? Come on, Matt, right? I can't answer that one either. Okay, number 3. Now, again, remember, you got to answer all 3 for me to give you the magic answer of what you should do to plan is, where will your kids be when you die? Will they be healthy? Will they be sick? Will they be going through a divorce? Do they owe people money? Are they getting sued? Do they have an addiction? I don't know. I don't know answers to that. The beautiful part about what Jack and I do is we don't care what may happen. We care about protecting for everything that could happen. Make sense? How about lawsuits? Nobody sues anybody anymore, do they? It doesn't happen. I like talking in the old days versus the new days, and we will in a bit, but lawsuits come from businesses, personal, home, property, auto. These are threats to you and your beneficiaries, aren't they? I'm not saying they'll win the lawsuit. I'm not saying that if I get into a car accident, and it's my fault, that my insurance won't cover it. But my mother-in-law, visiting her brother, who's mentally handicapped, is driving home, gets thirsty, decides, you know, I'm going to pull in, I'm going to get something to drink at this store before I go. Goes to make a left-hand turn. This motorcycle coming at 80 miles an hour can't stop, slams into her. She's got cited. The attorney And when I say attorney, people always, there's this like negative comment, right? There's good and bad in everything. The attorney said, we're suing you personally, we're suing your insurance company, we want $12 million and blah, blah. Now, she ended up getting out of it, but do you know what the biggest concern for her was? Oh my God, I have a trust, right? I'm protected. I said, no, Mom, you're not. Remember we talked about that asset protection trust and what I'm doing in my job? And oh, yeah, you don't have that. Thank God it resolved the way it did. Family members, are they predators? Oh, family members. Did anyone ever hear of the term blended family? 30 years ago, you'd say, what the heck is a blended family? Today, there are more blended families than there probably are non-blended families. It's a second marriage, it's getting married. And how many times do you think I see someone passes away, they get remarried, who do you think gets that money? Think it's not the second spouse and their kids? Yeah. And it's not always intentional. Don't get me wrong. I'm not here to say that there are all bad people out there. It just is sometimes a lack of planning that happens. I got to tell you about Fred and Wilma. Fred and Wilma are sitting at the table, and Wilma says, hey, Fred, when I die, will you get remarried? He says, oh, come on, Wilma. Please, let's not talk about that. No, I want to know. If I die, will you get remarried? Okay, honey, put it to bed, sure. You know what, maybe. I might get married, sure. Okay. Fred, when I die and you get remarried, will you let her live in the house? Oh, come on, Wilma, really? I want to know, would you let her live? Honey, yeah, maybe, I don't know. If I got married to the woman I loved her, maybe, yeah, maybe I'd have her live in the house. Well, would you let her drive my car? Honey, what's wrong? Is there something wrong with you? Do you have cancer? What's going on? No, I just want to know. Answer the question. Okay, yeah, I'd have her drive your car. She says, well, would you let her use my golf clubs? He says, absolutely not. She's left-handed. I love telling that story because when we talk about what will happen when I'm gone, I can say up and down what will happen, and we know that won't happen. It probably something else will happen. How about families' bad luck? We talked about lawsuits, disability, divorce. I put it in quotes, the in-laws, right? We have ones we love and ones we love. Do we want to protect from that divorce? How about families' irresponsibility? Someone's a spendthrift. I give Janie $1, she spends $1.50. I give Tommy $1, he turns it into a gold, right? How about bankruptcy? I've not heard a lot of bankruptcy filings lately. And fortunately or unfortunately, people do lose employment and end up in a position where they have no choice. Or addiction. I have a good number of these clients, and I'll tell you, if they don't plan, you know where it goes. That money's going in the mouth, up the arm, right? Okay, let's talk about the big one. And you see I put nursing home / cost of care. I had a woman in the audience once, I have to be careful. She says, Matt, I work for a nursing home. We are not a predator. I said, yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. But the cost of that care is. It is unaffordable, isn't it? Can we afford it? We can't sustain it. And again, we go back to the question, well, how long will I be there? Jack said, what is the average stay in a nursing home, right? Let's blow those odds out of the water. We don't know. So let's say the cost is $7,000 to $12,000 per month. And usually when I say that, people say, $12,000? Look, there is 2 facilities I know. One is at $304 a day right now. That's $9,600, $9,700 a month. And there's another one that is, with the care they needed, $11,000 a month. I say 12 because by the time you buy all the extras and do everything else, can it be 12? Yeah. Is it high? Yeah. Do I want to be at that place? Heck yeah, they probably treat you like gold, don't they? I don't know about that. Well, let's talk about maximizing our options. And what are our options? Our options are to stay at home, and have someone care for us? I should take a poll. How many of those people have someone who will stay at home 24 hours a day, take care of you no matter what you need? Yeah, right? Independent living. That's great, as long as you can do all the things you need to do for yourself. And then, assisted living. We need some help. And then, of course, the last is a nursing home. And we've talked about this already, but when does your health fail? We take it for granted every day. I have never met a person, and have yet to meet a person who's met a person, who said, I think tomorrow I'm going to wake up and have a stroke. It doesn't happen that way, does it? And we take it for granted. And I say we because I include myself in that. I talk about this all the time. Do I still take it for granted? Yes, absolutely. It's human nature. It's never expected, and so we don't want to do something until it's too late. So we're going to start talking a little bit about Medicaid, and I'm not going to go into depth about numbers and Medicaid. We're going to all get confused if we do that. What we're going to talk about, is who pays. Well, Ohio, not unlike many other states, is a pay-your-own-way state, isn't it? Fred, I think your mom, you just told me, is coming off Medicare. Medicare gives us 100 days. Did they give her 100 days? No. Do you know why? You come in, you go for rehab. So as you start going like this, you get your 100 days. That's great, that's great. But you know what? There's no more rehab because we're not getting better. And we're not getting better, so guess what? Medicare says, sorry, we're done. And what did they give you notice? A week?
2 days.
2 days notice. Boy, how kind. 2 days notice. So we have to pay. What's the other option? Long-term care insurance. We're going to cover these. I'm going to go over long-term care. Is it the answer? No. Is there an answer, a one answer? No. Not for everybody in this room. Not for any one situation. Lastly, the government pays. So the simple question is, who do you want to make that decision? Do you want to be in control at that time when you need it to make that decision on who pays? Or do you want someone else to dictate who makes that decision? What we're talking about here today is letting you decide, putting you in control, no matter what happens from the time you start this plan on. What does it take to be on Medicaid, right? That was kind of a little question, and I want to give you some education. I want you to know more about Medicaid than everyone else. Because what I call it is the barbershop, coffee shop, beauty shop rules. You know, Tom said when we were having coffee that blah, 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 right? I want you to be the one to say, Tom, you know what? You're wrong. And I know you're wrong because I know a lot about Medicaid. I'm a Medicaid expert. So here we go. In assets, you have to have $1,500 or less to your name. That's it, $1,500. Now this is for a single person, by the way. We'll talk about spouses in a moment. Your income, I don't care if you make $8,000 a month. You are entitled to receive $45. 45 bucks. Wonder how many Big Macs 45 bucks buys a month. Spouse different? Yes. If you have a spouse, I'm going to tell you right now, you are entitled to certain things. That is, up to $117,740. Pretty specific number, isn't it? But that is essentially half of what you have. So if you have 2 times $117,740, you get to keep that. If you have more than that, which comes to what, 230 something, if you have more than that, you don't get to keep it. The most you get to keep, $117,740. Make sense? No? Okay, I'm going to give the quick example. I have $50,000 to my name, my spouse and I. My spouse gets to keep it. We go up to a certain amount. We can only keep $117,000. So we have $500,000. Well, they're going to say, spouse, you're in the community, you're healthy, you get $117,000 of it. The rest of it, we count towards the spouse that's in the home. So all you get is $117,000 with no plan. You get a house. Oh boy, thanks. Thanks for the house. Because guess what? It's only for the spouse. Remember that word estate recovery? They want payment back. It's not exempt. It's exempt for the spouse. If the spouse dies, it's sold and the proceeds go to the spouse in the nursing home. If the spouse in the nursing home dies, they put a lien against the property. It's not exempted. And lastly, they get a car. Can you buy a $200,000 Bentley? No. Can you buy a $80,000 Mercedes? Yes. You get a car. So you get a house, a car, and up to $117,000. That's it. I want to tell you a little bit about how they changed when we make gifts. Anybody know how long Medicaid looks back?
7 years.
I hear 7, I hear 5. Anybody 3? It's 5. It's currently 5. They're talking about changing it to 7. Will it go to 7? I don't know. Do I care? No. Because you're here today. We'll talk about why that's important. So they look back 5 years. And under the old rules, it was really simple. I'd go into a nursing home. They'd say, okay, Matt, what did you do over the last 5 years? Well, I gave away $100,000. And they have a number that says the average cost of Medicaid, or cost of a nursing home for the state of Ohio, is about $6,000. So they say for every $6,000 you gave, you get 1 month penalty. So you gave away 100. Let's say I gave away 60. Let's make the numbers easy, because I don't have a calculator with me. So I gave away 60, 10 months, I'm ineligible. Well, I gave it a year ago, so 10 months went by, and now I'm eligible again. That's how it used to work. And if I haven't given anything and I went into a nursing home, I'd pay the nursing home and gift away that $6,000. And gift pay, gift pay, gift pay, you'd save about 50% of the money. Easy. But then we got smart. And the lawmaker said, well, guess what? It doesn't work that way anymore. When you give a gift, that penalty does not start when you give the gift. It starts when you are in a facility and otherwise qualified for Medicaid. Well, we know what you have to do to qualify for Medicaid. You have to be under $1,500. Wait a minute. So you're telling me if you look back 5 years, I gave away $60,000 4.5 years ago, but you're telling me the 10-month penalty is going to start now that I'm in a nursing home? And I only have $1,500 and I can't pay for the next 10 months? Yeah, sorry, Charlie. So you better go back to Tommy and Susie and say, can I have that 60 grand back?
Then where does the money come from?
Oh, where does the money come from? In that situation, I've had it. It's sad. I tell them, you either bring mom home or you come up with the money for 10 months. It's not a good situation. Is there a better way? Yes. Stay with me. Does the gifting make sense? Does the penalty make sense? Okay, so we get why and how this is happening. Don't forget, when we talk about this plan, we're talking about creditors, lawsuits, divorces, we're talking about a lot of different protection. We're focusing on Medicaid because I think it is your worst case scenario. Before I go into myths, let's just touch base a little bit about long-term care. To me, long-term care insurance guarantees results. Is spending any money a waste? To me, no. Does anyone not have homeowners insurance? I don't see a hand. We don't buy insurance because we know the house will burn down. We buy insurance in case the house burns down. And so my argument for the question about the long-term care and was it a waste of money, we've had coverage all this long way. Albeit maybe very expensive coverage, because if I bought it when it was affordable, and you know those premiums will never double, but if they raise the whole class, they can. I had someone come in and say, yeah, it's just about double. Should I keep doing it? Well, I don't know. It depends on a lot of factors. So I wouldn't say it's a waste of money. The question is, what will it do going forward? Where are we at financially? I'm going to give you the extreme. I had a woman come into my office and said, I pay, I think at that time it was $1,700 a year. Now, she was single, not married, had I think a Social Security check of about $600-700 a month. Should I continue to do this? Never married, no kids, and I said, what would $1,700 a year do for you? Oh, I wouldn't have to worry at the grocery store. Oh, I wouldn't worry about the cable bill. I said, then what are you doing? Who are you protecting? What are you saving this money for? Remember, in any plan we do, you and your spouse are the most important. Have you ever been on an airline? No, right? Have you ever been on the plane when the flight attendant says, in case of loss of cabin pressure, a mask will come down in front of you. And before you assist anyone else, put your own on first. That's the same with estate planning. You must help yourself first before you can protect anyone. Got it? So is long-term care a waste? No. Does it guarantee the results? Yes. Can the premiums go up? The benefits stay the same? Is it not enough to pay? Yes. Can it factor in a plan? Yes. How? $150, I think, is what you said the benefit was. Is that enough to pay? No. But it may offset what we need to pay, therefore protecting more money quicker. Are long-term care policies flexible? Can we select benefits? Can we say, no, absolutely not. They say, here's what you get, and this is when you get it, and you better fill out an application, and you better certify from a doctor that you need it, and why you need it, and how. It is not flexible. I said, I love that question. Why? Because what we're talking about is complete flexibility. We decide who gets what and when. We decide when our share of our benefits from Medicaid should kick in. How do you get Medicaid if you have money? Well, you're going to have $1,500. And the old adage was, give it all away and you better be healthy for 5 years. That's a look-back strategy. We do not use look-back strategies. We use look-forward strategies. We just talked about the penalties. When we use a look-forward strategy, we know we're going to do something wrong. We're going to give stuff away. What we want to know is, going forward, how are we penalized? Medicaid myths. Anybody here, they can take my home? You have to give your assets away to protect them. And if you give them away, you have to wait 36 or 60 months. We already talked about the look back. We know it's 60 months. Not true. All myths. I was at a presentation one time when somebody said, you know, Medicaid will come in to the funeral home and remove jewelry from the deceased in the casket. That's called a scare tactic. We won't scare you. We're going to tell you what could happen and how you can be in control of it. This is not here to scare you and make you do something. This is about education, about being educated about the decisions you make going forward. You have to give away your assets to protect them. No, you don't. I'm going to show you how in just a minute. You do not have to give them away. You stay in control of them. Very, very important. And if you give them away, you have to wait 60 months. No, we don't. We just talked about the penalty. If I give away 60, I know I get a 10-month penalty. That's not 5 years, right? Let's talk about your current plan. As I see it, your current plan, if you have a revocable living trust, which a lot of people do, and for good reason, is an open box. An open box meaning I can put my stuff in, I can take my stuff out, I can mold the box, I can change it, I can amend it, I can terminate it, I can do whatever I want with it. But if you can do that, so can someone else. Who's the someone else? The predators, right? Creditors, lawsuits, nursing homes. If I can go in anytime I want, so can everyone else. That's an open box. Provides tax planning, which again, federal tax limit now, we said Ohio went away, but federal is at $5 million. Will that change? Yes, it will change. Will it go up or down? I don't know. But it will change. It's the one constant we have. The law will change. Avoids probate and keeps your assets private, right? Because probate court is public record. Here it is. This is it. In the asset protection plan, and I don't know why on this slide it didn't come up, but it's not an open box, it's a box with a trap door. It provides you the same thing that the open box does, but adds a layer of protection. The best way I can describe this is with a story. I love stories. You're married, correct? How many years have you been married?
Too many.
Too many.
Wrong answer.
I'm real close to that number. I'm going to pick on you, I'm sorry. And may I call you Dan?
Yes.
And I'm sorry, your first name is?
Betty.
Betty, is it okay if I use Dan and Betty? Dan and Betty. I'm going to imagine that I hand Dan a dollar bill. And Dan has this dollar bill and it represents everything he has. Everything. House, car, boat, motorcycle. I know you have a motorcycle. At 80. That's wonderful. Everything. What can Dan do with that dollar? Now I need participation here. What can he do with it?
Give it to Betty.
Give it to Betty. Number one. Dan knows nothing about giving that dollar to Betty. I'm just kidding. We have fun. What else? Spend it. Excellent. What else can he do? Save it. Whatever he wants, it's his dollar, right? All right answers. Add 100 things to it. It's all right. Now, when Dan passes, what happens to that dollar? Goes to Betty. What can Betty do with the dollar? Anything she wants. Boy, I love you. You're catching on quick. Anything she wants. But if Betty can do anything she wants, who else can? Predators, right? By the way, who ends up with the dollar? The attorney, right? So instead, I argue, Dan, you love Betty way too much to give her a dollar. You love her enough to give her a trust. A trust doesn't die. A trust doesn't become disabled. Now, we do over 30 different trusts. I'm not talking about the open box trust. I'm talking about the trapdoor trust. Because we can go in to this box and do what we want and play around in this box. But as soon as someone else, the predator, comes in, what happens? Door closes. Trapdoor box. Door closes, they can't get at it. And I argue that Dan and Betty, you love your kids way too much to give them money. You love them enough to get a trust. Jack and I often talk about this. People come in and they don't say, oh, mom and dad, and poor mom and dad, and God bless them, they left us this money. They say, how much am I getting and when? And when do I get more? Right? Let me tell you my story. Johnny comes in. Hey, Mr. Smarty Pants Deliberato here. You created this trust. I don't want this trust. I want the money. Give me the money. I say, okay, Johnny, well, your mom and dad came in here for a very specific purpose. And we took a lot of time to plan this and figure out when and who and how should get this. What do you want to do with the money, Johnny? Johnny says, I want to buy a condo in Florida. My wife and I are moving down to Florida. I say, Johnny, tell you what, how about if the trust buys the condo? Trust buys the condo. You can live in it. You can rent it, get the income. You can sell it, buy another place, do whatever you want. How's that sound? Johnny says, you know, that sounds awesome. Great, thanks. They buy the condo, they move to Florida, and Johnny discovers a great game called golf. And Johnny's not playing 9 holes a day. He's not playing 18 holes a day. He's playing 36 holes a day, and he's gone most of the day. He's working more at golf than he was working at his job. And he comes home one day, and his wife says, hi, Johnny. Today I met Biff the pool boy, and we're jumping on his Harley, and here's my new address. Just send me a check for half of everything. What doesn't that wife get half of? The condo, because it's in a trust. The trust doesn't die, trust doesn't become disabled. Let's take that story and take it to bankruptcy, to lawsuits, to nursing homes, to disability. Remember when I asked you, where will your kids be when you pass away? I don't know. I hope they're healthy. I hope they're good-minded. I hope they're not going through a lawsuit. I hope they're not going through a divorce. But you know what? I don't care. I want to make sure no matter what happens that we plan for that. We have a motto, plan when you can. When is that? Right now. How do I know out of 30 different trusts and what is the best suited for you? How do I know? We get together. My challenge today is that you don't stop here. You've taken the time to hear this. You know that we can protect it. We have options. We have things we can do. And so the challenge is to not go home and say, oh, that was a great talk. We laughed. We had fun. I got some cookies and coffee. And let's get together. What we can offer you together is to figure out an analysis of what you have and what would happen if the worst case scenario happens. And if then at that point you know what the risk is, you can make a good decision whether or not you should move on. And I will tell you right now, there are people in this room that need to not do this. But there's very few of you out there. Because this is also, I believe, and Jack and I have talked about this, we believe that this is a limited time thing. Why? What's the constant in law? It will change. And when it changes, if you're not set up properly, it'll be a different plan. One you may not like, because it's not getting better. The number of people are going on Medicaid are going through the roof. The question is, who do you want to be in control? You or they, whoever they are?